Educators are living their purpose. And yet at the same time, as 67% of teachers report feeling a strong sense of purpose, 53% of teachers report feeling burned out all the time.
As educators, we love on our students so much. That is us fulfilling our purpose. That's why we do this work. And if we do that so much that we literally have nothing left to give, the purpose gets dimmer and dimmer.
And so we have this paradox. We have this purpose and we have this burnout.
Our heart is still in the work. We want to do it. It's just like the connection to that purpose is harder to access because we're exhausted, we're tired, we're depleted, we're burnt out.
What if it's a little bit less about having to give to ourselves and a little bit more about receiving what life has to give us? And to me, that's the absolute core of universal intelligence, right? It's the layer of something greater than us, whatever that means to each of us. And it's receiving from life, from something beyond ourselves, so that then we do have that cup that's more full so that we can give even more. And that's what I would love to dive into together today.
You're an educator. You literally live your purpose day in and day out. As educators and leaders in education, we're so purpose-driven. We wouldn't be doing this work if we weren't, right? We're definitely not doing it for the money, let's be honest. And this is also the most burnt out profession in the world. And so how do we as educators and as leaders in this field do the work necessary so we can stay rooted and connected to our purpose, so we can sustain in this profession? And what better time to reconnect to our purpose than during summer when we have a moment to actually breathe and exhale after the school year. So in this episode, we are going to take you into one of our 5 layers of human intelligence, which is called universal intelligence. And this is all about you reconnecting to that deep purpose that lives within you. And we'll take you through our 5 competencies of universal intelligence. And our intention is at the end of this episode, you feel just a little bit more connected to your why. So, Michael, I'll turn it to you. I'm so excited for this conversation. When I start talking about, purpose and right, we're here in summer, like what's alive for you when you're thinking about our educators?
What's alive for me is how valuable and important of an opportunity this is for educators to decompress from the school year and to do so in a way that is really rejuvenating and re-inspiring through the universal intelligence understanding. Because I think so often, educators find a way to cope by going out to get a drink or by keeping themselves busy with other things in life that matter, which are all amazing things. Mm-hmm. And I think this summer opportunity is to go a little bit deeper inside and really understand. And what I think that means is taking a moment to step back and reconnect with why are we doing this in the first place?
For sure.
And that means noticing the world around us with more openness, making space for synchronicities in our life to help us, really learning to remember why it is we got into this in the first place and have a little bit of openness for maybe life to give us something for a change, so that educators aren't always the ones giving.
I think because as educators, we give so much of ourselves to our students and everyone in our lives, we forget to give back that same love and care to ourselves.
Yes.
And when we're talking about purpose, right, all of us are purpose-driven, let's be honest, as I mentioned, but we can lose connection to that inspiration, to that hope that brought us into teaching in the first place because of the stress, the overwhelm, the anxiety, the burnout that eventually happens after we continue down the grind of just doing. And so I am just so excited to explore this universal intelligence layer with you. And for those of you who are listening to this episode and you're just learning about human intelligence, we have created this human intelligence framework at Breathe for Change. It's got 5 layers. We have the somatic layer, which is our intelligence of our incredible bodies that we live in. We have the emotional intelligence layer, which is our capacity to feel and to have an empowering relationship with all of our emotions. We have the cognitive intelligence layer, which in education, it's like there's cognitive overload. But what we mean by that is our capacity to tap into our creativity and truly live into the possibilities that are that we want to live into in our lives. We've got the relational layer, which is our capacity to connect as human beings. And the final layer is what we're diving into today, universal intelligence. This is our capacity to live in deep trust and to experience and fulfill our purpose. And I believe that in education, schools are not designed around that. It's like the cognitive overload is so present. It's like instead of being like, how do we teach to this test? How do we help you fulfill your purpose in life?
What would become possible if that was the core question?
I mean, we would be living in a completely different world.
Yeah.
Completely different world. And so today we want to take you through some of our favorite practices so that in the middle of this summer, you have the capacity within yourself to remember your why, to look around, to reconnect to the world, to your students, to your communities in a way that reignites that fire within you. And in doing so, you set yourself up to start the school year refreshed, rejuvenated, and inspired. And that's what we're going for here.
100%. And I want to go a little deeper on something you said, because I totally agree, right? Educators are living their purpose, right? That's why we all got into this field.
100%.
And yet at the same time, as 67% of teachers report feeling a strong sense of purpose, 53% of teachers report feeling burned out all the time. And so we have this paradox.
Both things are true at once.
We have this purpose and we have this burnout. And so what I'm really excited to dive in on today is how can we live our purpose without burning ourselves out? How can we have our purpose in teaching light us up and not burn us out? And so as we go through these competencies, let's really dial in on that, because I want your take on that. I think it's so valuable. For those of us who do feel a sense of purpose, sometimes we can feel like we're giving from an empty cup.
Yep.
But there is a way in universal intelligence, right, of when we connect to something bigger than ourselves, when we're drawing that purpose and inspiration from beyond just ourselves, where it can fill us up more. So what are your thoughts on that, and how are we going to make that more accessible?
I mean, I will never forget what my 4-year-old pre-K superstar Patrick once said, which is like, in a community, first you have to love yourself, because if you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. Aww. And literally that's what you're talking about. Like as educators, we love on our students so much. That is us fulfilling our purpose. That's why we do this work. And if we do that so much that we are not literally have nothing left to give, the purpose gets dimmer and dimmer. Even though our heart is still in the work, we want to do it, it's just the connection to that purpose is harder to access because we're exhausted, we're tired, we're depleted, we're burnt out.
Yeah.
And so I think the teaching here, the offering, so to speak, is how can we give to ourselves the way Patrick said so beautifully? How can we give to ourselves little bit by little bit so that our cup doesn't get to that point of depletion? There's nothing left in it, right? So that we can stay at that threshold, so to speak, that allows us to continue giving, which is why we do this work in the first place.
Yeah, and I would even challenge you to expand that a little bit.
Ooh, say more. I love a good challenge.
Well, so you're saying give to yourself, right? But what if it was more about receiving?
Oh, you know you're going to get me with that one.
I do. And I think for so many of us,
it's
right?
so hard for me.
What if it's giving to ourselves, yes, great. But what if it's a little bit less about having to give to ourselves and a little bit more about receiving what life has to give us? And to me, that's the absolute core of universal intelligence, right?
For sure.
It's the layer of something greater than us, whatever that means to each of us. And it's receiving from life, from something beyond ourselves, so that then we do have that cup that's more full so that we can give even more. And that's what I would love to dive into together today.
Well, I love this because when Michael and I were creating the human intelligence framework and these 5 layers of somatic, emotional, cognitive, relational, and universal, Michael, who I would argue embodies universal intelligence more than almost anyone that I know, and it's super inspiring, was like, you were like, we have to include this in the framework.
Absolutely.
And I was like, there's going to be pushback. I don't know if like I am comfortable with that. And really the resistance in me had nothing to do truly with what I thought other people would think about it. It had to do with this is the most challenging one for me to access and for me to fully embody, because the thought of actually trusting that the world has got my back and I am supported and I can receive all the gifts that life has to offer me and not have to control it all. As a control freak, that's crazy.
It is.
And
it's scary is what it is.
It's scary and it's vulnerable.
It's vulnerable.
And you have to surrender and you have to release that need to control and know everything and try and make sure that you've got a hand in it all. It's like, can you just like sit in that seat of the receiver, to your point? And I've always struggled with that. But I will say, since we've committed to universal intelligence, and I believe wholeheartedly that that is the core of what even human intelligence is about, like purpose, access to something greater than ourselves. Nothing is more beautiful and meaningful than that. If in that, living it, trying to live it, even though it's a constant practice and it always will be for me because it's hard, it's been extraordinary and like very beautiful. I feel like I see more beauty in my life because of it.
I'm so grateful. For me, cultivating this layer of intelligence has been the most life-changing thing for me in my entire life. So let's talk about it. Let's make it a little more tangible and accessible.
Love it.
I think, ultimately this sense of connecting with something bigger than ourselves can be esoteric, but what we're really talking about here is actually quite simple. And it begins with a sense of wonder. It begins with approaching our lives as an exploration.
With curiosity.
With curiosity and with openness. And I think what that comes down to is so many of us, we unintentionally, I think, our world starts to get smaller as we get older. We start to get used to certain things. We start to focus on ourselves. And when we get stress by definition contracts the nervous system. It narrows our focus. And it only looks for what's wrong. And in wonder and universal intelligence, we step outside of that. We take off that, that layer that covers us, that shield. And we start to realize, wow, we are part of this incredibly interconnected life. And there's so much that is beyond us that we don't understand.
And we all had access to this at one point. I mean, I think about Aaliyah and Zoe, my 2- and 4-year-old, and then my 16 pre-K students that I would have every year as a teacher in the classroom. They lived and breathed this.
Absolutely.
My daughters live and breathe this every day. They're so curious about literally everything, even the most mundane things. I would say especially about the most mundane, what we as adults might think of as the most boring things. And what it's taught me observing these young children is, wow, there is so much to explore around me. What a gift it is to have access to the beauty that is right around us, all around us. There's always something new to learn here and explore. And so it's like a mindset of wonder that we're talking about here. Can you open your eyes? Can you look up? So often when we're stressed, when we're overwhelmed, I know it because I see it in you. You look up and to the right, I think it is. And I know I look down, but it's like this, or you look down and to the right. But it's like we're like in our heads.
Yeah.
And this is the opposite of that. This is getting out of your head and into the world.
Yes.
How do you just look up? That's literally one of the practices that we teach in our masters is called look up. Just look up, look around you, and like what's here to explore, right? And you might be in the exact same room that you've been in for years every day, but can you find something new here, right? Can you look at the different textures, the different colors, the different things around you, right? And if you're out in nature, another practice that we teach is called wonder walk. I love that. Don't go on a walk.
So good.
Go on a wonder walk.
A wonder wander.
Ooh, wonder wander. We're
that's the new
changing.
name.
That's the new name. This is like Michael and I creating curriculum in action. What we thought was wonder walk 2 minutes ago is now wonder wander. So you're wandering around your room, around your home, around the world, around your school, during the school year even. And can you do that from a place of wonder instead of just like walking mindlessly through your day? That's a beautiful practice that can have life-changing effects when it comes to this competency.
Absolutely. And another practice that can actually go with the wonder wander is noticing the synchronicities that are happening. It can be rare, but life, I believe, is always communicating with us. And you could think about that in so many different ways. But at the core, I think that there are different opportunities for us to become more aware, more alive, more ourselves. And when we notice the synchronicities, those little moments that we never could have expected, but when they come along, they teach us something new, or they guide us down a path, or maybe we took a different path to school and we ran into a friend we hadn't seen in a long time, or we get introduced to someone who becomes one of our best friends or our partners. These little moments when it's almost like life has a plan.
Michael wouldn't have met his partner if he didn't know me. That's true.
That is very true.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful synchronicity. Breathe for Change brought my wife to me, and I'm so grateful for that. And it's in these noticing of these that we start to realize all the ways that life actually is working for us, that the things that are happening around us can have meaning and inspire us and actually give to us. And so part of this, to bring back to what we were saying before, part of wonder, I think about it almost like we start drinking in the world. Instead of we're like closed off and we think we know and we're controlling, we're like, I'm going to like drink in the world.
Soak it in.
Soak it in, right? And that is filling up our cup, right? It's not relying only on our internal energy to be alive and to be fulfilled and to motivate us, but it's actually receiving more of that from the world around us.
And you might be asking yourself, how in the world does experiencing or embodying wonder have anything to do with purpose? Well, it totally does. If you think about when you access or connect most deeply to your purpose, to what matters to you, to your why, it's when your eyes are bright, they're open, you're in this place of literal physical openness in your body, but also like curiosity, exploration. There's not that sense of closed offness when we're connected to our purpose. And that's why this is the first competency, because it is foundational to us even having the possibility of accessing our purpose. You got to be in that state of wonder. And from that first competency of wonder, then we move into the second competency, which I would argue, and I bet you would argue, is the one I struggle with most out of all 25 competencies of the human intelligence framework, which is trust.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
I sure can. And when we say trust, what we mean is really embracing the wisdom and the possibility that exists for us in all of our experiences. And even the hard ones, even the ones where we lost a loved one or where something really was painful, right? I know for me, when my dad died suddenly of a heart attack, it was such a shock to my system. And it sent me into so much grief and so many other things. And that was really important for me in the end. And despite that being one of the hardest moments of my life, in going through that, I was actually learning so many lessons about who I wanted to be, what I cared about most, how I wanted to live my life, how I wanted to devote myself more to my purpose. And I don't know if I would have been able to move through that like I did if I didn't have ultimately this lens of trust. And it wasn't like I trusted that it was okay that happened. It wasn't like I trusted, like, in the sense of, like, from then on I would never get hurt again. It was this sense of trust that my experience had meaning for me and that I could find the wisdom in it. I could find the possibility in it. And now I'm so grateful to say that I feel like my dad is this, like, 13 or 14 years later. So it's a long process, but I feel like he's with me more than he has been. And I feel like I still have him because I held it in that way where now I feel like I can see him in everything and I can kind of hear his voice in the life that I'm living.
I even feel, honestly, as like your best friend and co-partner in Breathe for Change, that your dad lives through me. I met you 10 months after he passed. And I remember that first night when we were at that restaurant, you told me that your dad had just died and you were trying to make meaning of it and explore what is the purpose in life. You were asking these big questions around purpose because you had this huge trauma and devastation happen. And witnessing you integrate that over the years and then almost live him through you has been so beautiful. And, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned your dad when you think about trust, because my dad comes to mind too, because, you know, my dad it's been since 1997, I think, was his first episode, and eventually turned into pancreatic cancer. And he's been in the hospital for, I don't know, hundreds of times with several surgeries. The man should be dead. And he has somehow just transcended the odds time after time after time, and he's still here. And I think at first when he got sick, I was like so closed off. I couldn't even access, I don't even know how to explain it. It was like I couldn't think about like anything bigger than myself helping. I just was like closed off and like this, like trying to get through it, contracted. But now it's like I get a call almost every month. Dad's in the hospital again. And there's this like peaceful trust. I know he's going to be okay. And if he's not, like, I am living in right relationship with him every day because I've gotten to I've come to learn to surrender to just, this is our reality. And when I actually just allow that to be what it is, I'm able to open myself up more to connection versus close off to fear.
And I know that's what he wants for you, right? And I know it gives him joy to see you relate to it in that way, and probably helps him live on with more energy and vitality.
Oh, yeah. And he and my mom are the first people every single Wednesday morning to watch our podcast. So I know, Dad, you're listening to this,
that's so sweet.
Which is so sweet.
And it's when we learn to trust, like we're talking about, when we can find a deeper layer of our purpose, because trust is ultimately about not fighting against what has happened, not closing ourselves off to life, but having that courage to be open to life and to receive the wisdom in that experience. And so as educators in the summer, right, so much has happened this school year.
Oh,
probably so many challenges, heartbreaks, struggles, frustrations, right? And now we have the chance to process that, and most importantly, to trust that no matter how hard this year was, all the ups and all the downs, that now all that wisdom we have from that experience lives in us. And the possibility of, and just the reality that now moving forward, we are going to be stronger, better versions of ourselves as human beings and as teachers.
And I think we could all argue that the most challenging moments in our lives often lead to the greatest transformation. And this practice that we teach around trust in our master's program is called Connect the Dots. And it's all about doing exactly what you just said, which is going back to those moments, which are often the most challenging in the moment.
Absolutely.
And reflecting on them, processing them, and then recognizing how they've shaped who you have become today. And there's nothing more beautiful than that. So I would love, if you're listening, to just sit back, relax. And if you're driving, keep your eyes open. But if you can, turn your attention inward. I would love for you to join Michael and me in this practice. You can close your eyes. You can soften your gaze. Maybe you even bring your hands over your heart. And just take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And I invite you, now that we're here in summer, to just take a moment to journey back throughout the last year. Maybe you go all the way back to the beginning of the school year. I want you to travel through those moments that were really challenging for you or really significant to you. They were really hard. Or maybe they were just so unbelievably meaningful. Maybe it was a certain interaction that you had with a student that you really regretted after the fact. Maybe it was a tragedy that showed up in your teaching context that you had no control over, but it impacted you and your kids. Maybe it was a shift in leadership that impacted the culture at your school. Or maybe it was that you literally were so stressed and burnt out that you showed up in ways you regretted or that you didn't want to show up as in that moment. Or maybe there was such joyful moments that showed up that you did something as an educator that you never thought you were capable of, and you made such a big impact. So just journeying through those moments and really connecting the dots here, right? In that moment, how did you feel? And then fast forwarding, how has this shaped you? How has it impacted you? How can you make sense of this now? Honoring each and every one of those moments and letting go, if you can, of any guilt, of any shame, of anything that you're still holding on to that's not serving you around these moments. Just connecting those dots for yourself. And then taking a moment to honor each and every one of those experiences. All of those moments mattered deeply. And can you trust that that too will happen with each and every moment that you experience moving forward? That's what this practice is about. And so, if your eyes are closed, you can gently open them. And again, right, reflecting back on those moments, the big moments, and making meaning of that, right? Connecting the dots to who you've become today can really help you trust more deeply moving forward.
You just took me on a journey.
Oh, tell me about it.
Well, I will tell about it, and it's a good segue to where we're going next. But without getting into all the details, I went through a big conflict with my wife this last year, and I just was able to see how actually, even though in that moment that felt terrible to both of us, how much it already has helped, I think both of us, but definitely helped me become a better husband, a better man, and better to-be father. And I am just so aware of what a blessing and gift it is to be able to hold a lens of trust, because I think it's these really hard moments in life that can either really have a spiral downward or can become fuel to the fire of purpose and becoming a better version of ourselves. So I'm so glad we're talking about this and teaching it. And I do really think it leads so clearly into the next competency.
Integrity.
Yes. And in integrity, this is all about, now that we have approached the world with wonder and started to notice and explore the synchronicities in life and learn to trust even the hard things, we have the raw material now to act in integrity because we're seeing life as it really is. And so integrity is all about aligning ourselves with that life. It's aligning our thoughts. It's aligning our words. It's aligning our actions with what life is asking of us, with what we're being called to do, even when that's scary, even when that's hard, even when that's challenging. And to me, in a 20-plus year practice of meditation, I have found that nothing is more accelerating of me becoming who I want to be than this practice of integrity, than this practice of having the courage, even when it's hard, to truly follow what is being asked of me and to truly honor my own values in the process.
That's one thing I love most about you is when you say something, it happens. It's like I've never met anyone that literally declares something out of his or her mouth and then manifests it so deeply and consistently. And I think that's because of that piece, not just about aligning your thoughts, your words, and actions. That's like generally how we think about integrity. It's like you're connected to what is life asking of me.
Yeah. I mean, Breathe for Change. I mean, you asked this. Life asked this of me.
Literally.
Through you to join Breathe for Change.
Y'all, he was sitting on a tree stump in a backyard in 2015. I came to Michael. I said, Michael, I'm starting this movement. It's called Breathe for Change. You have to see it in action. I've got a training. There's educators that are taking care of themselves and learning to enhance their pedagogy and transform education from the inside out. And I'm so inspired. And he's just like literally sitting.
Well, I had just recently stepped away from like a tech startup I had founded because I was like, I loved what I had done, but I wanted to find a deeper purpose. So I was literally asking for life to help guide me. And then you showed up.
I've literally never watched someone sitting at a tree stump in a crisscross applesauce position. I'm a pre-K teacher, so there was that crisscross applesauce, hands on his knees, literally eyes closed, sky open, asking the universe, what's next for me?
And then being responded to so clearly with
I was like, here I am.
You and then all the educators that you know I saw within the first training and just how much of an impact this was having. And it was a call and I was very open. I was in wonder, and I was trusting, right? And then when I saw that you and Breathe for Change could really use some of the entrepreneurial skills I had and just align so well for me, I took a leap of faith and I aligned my thoughts, words, and actions with trying to help.
Well, and what's so ironic about all of that is when I actually think about what I was doing at that time, I was also so deeply living in integrity.
Absolutely.
I had no idea how to start a business. That was not at all in my sphere of any experience I'd had. I was an educator and I just believed so deeply in this mission. And
well, not only that, you had educators asking you to do this. You were responding to life.
That's
too.
true. They were like, let's take this shit international, train us.
Yeah. So you were also in a place of not only aligning your thoughts, words, and actions, but with what life is asking of you. And I feel like that's like the secret key, the secret hidden mystery that when we realize that actually in so many cases life, other people are asking for our gifts.
Yes.
And it's when we start to offer them in alignment, is when that purpose starts to unfold in bigger and bigger ways.
It's so wild to reflect on this now. It's 11 years later, and we have over 20,000 educators who have graduated through our trainings, impacting over, 20 million students around the country and world, have an accredited master's of education program that we're, graduating leaders in the field from now. And in that moment, it was like, both of us were aligning our thoughts, our words, and action. And there's zero chance I could have built this movement without you. And there is zero chance that you could have built this movement without me. But it was both of us were drawn to each other because we were living our purpose.
Well, and we still are. And that's the beauty. I think, when things get hard, as they often are for us too, and which way do we go and what do we do? At Breathe for Change, it's what do our educators want? What is humanity asking of us right now? Like truly, what is needed? How can we serve? These types of questions of what's being asked for from us by life, by our community, by the world. These are like our strongest guides, I think, in life of how we can find that purpose.
And it's in that questioning of what is life asking of us right now that we even realize the human intelligence framework was so critical to create in the first place, right? Because what is it that the world needs? It needs to learn about how important our bodies are, somatic intelligence, how critical our emotional experiences, emotional intelligence, how important our minds are, ability to think and to create, and then how important relationships are, relational intelligence, our capacity to connect and to belong, and ultimately universal intelligence, which is what we're talking about now, to live out our purpose. And it's so beautiful that through living in integrity, that third competency, all of this just unfolds because life asks us things, and if we listen, then we can have a huge opening.
And I want you to share a practice for this in a moment, but I just want to pull this apart a little bit more because I think universal intelligence for many people is so new. So what many people think of when they think of integrity is essentially like acting, being right, or like acting in a good way. And I think that's great. What we're talking about absolutely includes that. But what I love about our definition is that it includes directly listening for what life is asking of us. And in general, in the whole universal intelligence layer, it's the layer of something beyond ourselves. And it's learning to actually directly relate to that, right? To find a way for, and listen, we all have our own ways of understanding that, what that means, right? And that is so beautiful. And we would never want to say how to conceptualize or understand what something greater than us is.
Yes.
But the reality is we are all individuals within a bigger context. And when we can directly relate to that bigger context, and when we can listen to it and have information from it, that's when we can really be guided in this way. That's when we can really live in an integrity that's bigger than just our personal values. It's actually integrity to this beautiful humanity, this world that we're all part of.
You literally just explained one of my favorite integrity practices that we teach in the Masters, which is called Choose What's True. And this is a practice where you're both holding what are my values? What do I care about? We're not saying to not pay attention to that at all. Absolutely. Honor your values. Honor what you care about. And listen for what life is asking of you. And that's really how you hold what's true. Let me listen for what's life is asking of me, and let me ensure that through that I'm living my values. And that's really the practice. So if you're you're in the middle of the summer, maybe you're working, maybe you've got a little bit of space, but as you're trending day by day, a little closer towards the beginning of the school year, can you sit in that question? What are my values? What do I care most deeply about as an educator, as a leader, and as a human being? Write that down, literally write all the words. I value purpose. I value well-being. I value connection. I value gratitude. I value family. I value whatever it is that you value. And sit for a moment in reflection. Say, what is life asking of me? Because oftentimes the way that you are able to effectively live your values, live that sense of meaning and purpose that you so deeply desire and deserve to live into, it's from a place of listening for what's here. How can that serve me?
So beautiful.
I love it.
I love that. And I feel like it's that combination of our inner values and what life is asking, where our most beautiful lives really live, and our strongest purpose.
And it leads to another strategy that we teach in our programs called Fly Your Wings, right? Because it's when you have that sense of clarity, you come to what is true for me, which is a hard place to come to with a bunch of noise going on, with your phones out, with, all the people we're talking to every day, with all the responsibilities we have, even over the summer, because that doesn't stop. It's really hard to access that truth if we're not quiet. And so giving yourself a little bit of space for this reflective experience, and then from that place of, oh, this is what's true for me, I'm holding both my internal and my external worlds in one sitting, and now I see where I want to go, then you can fly your wings. You can actively consider what are the tangible actions I can take today, tomorrow, the next day, to go towards where I want to go. And that's really an invitation for all of you, especially with a little bit more spaciousness now than you might have, in August, September, October, et cetera. Like, can you ask yourself that question? One, what's true for me? And from there, what actions do I want to take now to move towards that, to fly my wings, to access the possibilities that I want to create for myself? So beautiful. Love. And in doing that, it leads to the fourth competency, which is, my favorite thing ever, gratitude. It's so beautiful. And it's interesting. We debated a lot as we were creating the human intelligence framework. Where does gratitude live, the competency? Because, you could put it in emotional, right? Because gratitude is absolutely an emotional experience. We have a ton of gratitude practices that relate to emotional intelligence. Could also be in relational, right? Can we be grateful for our relationships and express gratitude, receive gratitude? But we actually chose, after hours, hundreds of hours of debate, let's put it in universal. And Michael, I want you to talk a little bit about the why behind that choice. One, what is the definition of gratitude when it comes to universal intelligence specifically? And then why did we choose to double click on that?
Absolutely. And I think it's worth noting that a little bit of how we hold gratitude as a little bit distinct from appreciation, right? And so we can appreciate each other, we can appreciate as an emotion, and we can experience gratitude in the emotional and the relational layers. When we're talking about gratitude here, we're talking about something a little bit lofty, I would say.
Absolutely.
We're talking about a state that, so many different cultures and traditions have revered as an incredibly beautiful state, but a hard one to get into. And that is really being in awe of the beauty and the interconnectedness of life. Gratitude as living in awe of the beauty and interconnectedness of life. And this is often associated as almost like a spiritual state or like a mystical state, right? Where we can actually experience everything that's happening as part of the interconnected web that we are part of. Where we can see how we're part of this mysterious life that is so much bigger than ourselves, how beautifully harmonious nature is and this planet, and how it provides us everything we need, from the food that we eat to the air that we breathe to the water that we drink, and that we didn't actually do anything to do that. I mean, may grow our food, but we didn't design plants or animals, and all of this abundance and all of this reality that we got to be born into that is so much bigger than us. And when we can really live from that place, it's hard to be anything but grateful.
Totally. And one of the practices that we teach in our masters is called See the Web. And I'm thinking about you. And as an educator, as a leader, every year you hold a group of students. You teach them, you develop them, you support them, you love them. And I want you to sit in the ripple effects of that for a moment and to recognize the web of connections that you are literally cultivating second by second, minute by minute, year by year, decade by decade, eventually lifetime by lifetime, simply by the way you show up for your students every day. you and every interaction that you have with your students, that impacts them. Maybe they see something new for themselves that they otherwise wouldn't have seen. Maybe they shift a disempowering belief to an empowering belief. Maybe they actually believe that they can do something that before they didn't think that they could do. And then from there, they show up differently in their relationships, which is everyone's related to tons of people, right? Their family, their friends. Then, there's years that go by. The impact that you have as an educator ends up rippling to millions of people. You in your classroom, if you're a classroom teacher, in your staff room, if you're an administrator in your organization, if you're a leader or an employee in an organization, all the people that you support day in and day out are impacted, and millions more are impacted because those people impact other people, and the connection is huge. And that's really what gratitude is about. Like, it's about seeing and connecting to that awe and the beauty of each and every moment of connection. And yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like yes. And often this type of gratitude, I think, is thought of in a little bit of an esoteric way. Mm-hmm. But I was a physics major.
Yes, you were.
And in physics, one of the things that you learn really early on that is like maybe the only sort of immutable truth about how the universe works is that everything is connected. Mm-hmm. Literally, one atom moving across the universe is in a minuscule way pulling on every other atom. So there is absolutely nothing that can happen from a pure science perspective that doesn't impact everything else. Mm-hmm. And then when you add the human layer and the relationships and the communities, the ripple effects of every choice we make are huge. And for educators, the impact on a trajectory of a human life, that research that shows that just one educator, just one adult who really cares about a student can literally change that student's life for the better. And then how that student, the tens of thousands of people they interact with, and how that ripples, it's absolutely miraculous.
Miraculous. You are miraculous. And what I also love about gratitude that I've only recently tapped into is that a lot of times it feels like it lives in the unexplainable. It's so beautiful. It's so miraculous that it doesn't even make sense. And there's nothing that I could do or say or try to figure out that can literally explain it step by step. Like, I want to have all the answers. Like, I'm thinking about in October when I was rock climbing and I didn't realize I wasn't clipped in and I fell 44 feet. And literally should be dead.
That was such a miracle.
The likelihood of me having this conversation is literally 0.0000, who knows, 0.1%. And over 50% of people that fall at 40 feet die on the fall. And I was 44. And the other 50% definitely aren't having a conversation like this. And I think about the miracle of that. And the thing that has shifted most for me since that fall, which was less than a year ago, way less than a year ago, is this I kind of live in a more constant state of awe of it is such a miracle to be alive. I can't believe that I get to have this breath. I can't believe that I get to hug my kids right now. I can't believe how beautiful it is that we get to be on this podcast having conversations and geeking out about things that we're obsessed with together. Yeah. I literally can't believe how beautiful life is. And had I not had that fall, I would have just been well, the problem is this and the problem is that. And, been focusing so much more on what's not working in my life versus now sort of this transformed. And it's not always, let me tell you that. But I think it's a little bit more obvious, a more focused attention on what is working and being grateful for that. Mm-hmm. And I just feel what a gift. I mean, I wouldn't recommend falling 44 feet to most people, but I will say that when you have these near-death experiences, I think oftentimes what comes out of it, and I've started to talk to a lot of people who've had near-death experiences, including you, about this sort of new realm surfaces, which is a more consistent state of gratitude.
Mm-hmm. And it is very persistent and consistent across people with near-death experiences, because I think when we get brushed, when we are either reminded or remind ourselves that life is precious and that it's not a given and that it is to be cherished, is when we can tap into that state. And I believe deeply it's a choice. I think it's a very hard choice to find. I think it can be extremely challenging in the midst of trauma, for sure, and other stressors and challenges to be in this state. And I don't think it's something that we need to aspire to be in all the time.
Absolutely.
But I do think that at some basic human level, it's a bit of a choice. Am I going to see that life is beautiful and life is a miracle, or am I going to focus on all the myriad ways that things are hard? And that's the beauty of this competency.
And I think that when we do tap into gratitude, when we do see life as beautiful, as meaningful, as like, I'm so blessed to be in this moment, especially when it's hard. And let's be honest, as educators, those moments happen all the time. It's freaking hard. That's when we really can access purpose, because purpose isn't easy.
No.
Living our purpose, if it was easy, you and I wouldn't be doing Breathe for Change. We'd be doing something else. But we're like living our purpose because we can sit in that knowing of, okay, this is hard. It's going to take a lot of people saying no. It's going to be stressful. We're going to not sleep. We're going to, have conflict. We're going to fight a ton of battles. But it's worth it because I'm living my purpose. And as educators, you've all been there. You know this. It's day in, day out. You're living your purpose. And the offering is like, can we do that while sustaining in the profession? And I think that's what we've struggled so deeply with as an education system and society.
Absolutely. So purpose. This is really about contributing our unique gifts in service of something beyond ourselves, right? So talk to me a little bit more about that. Like, you are one of the most purposeful human beings I know. You basically live and breathe your purpose all day long. What is it like? How did you find that? And what is it like to bring this competency of purpose to life?
I mean, it feels so easy and natural, to be honest, because, and I'll say a caveat there, day in, day out, it's not easy. But when I think about why am I doing this work, it's a no-brainer. The access to the why behind what I do is clear. I'm here to transform lives through humanizing education. I'm here because our education system sucks, and every student in the world deserves to have educators like you holding space for them, caring for them, and loving them. And our system needs to support that, and it currently doesn't. And we're not training our educators to go into classrooms with the effective skills, competencies, and tools to both take care of themselves and teach our kids in today's world. So the purpose is just so obvious to me. And when I think about purpose, it's like, what's that thing inside you where you're like, this is why I get up in the morning? Even though it's so freaking hard, this is why I get up in the morning. This is why I do the hard thing. This is why I'm stressed. This is why I'm burning out. This is why I'm willing to be anxious. This is why I'm willing to have the hard conversation, because I believe something so strongly within myself, and that's my purpose. And so purpose doesn't come from just lofty love and, beauty and positivity. It's like it's grounded usually in something that doesn't feel right, that you want to live for to make it right. And that's kind of how I've stumbled upon my purpose is, my mom was an educator. I grew up in her classroom. My grandma, all the people in my life and my family are educators. And I knew from age 8, I'm going to be a teacher, even though they all told me not to be. And I had all those conversations. But something in me just like knew that I wanted to transform kids' lives. And that was that. So it's not easy. The work's not easy. Everything that goes on around the purpose isn't easy. In fact, as we grow more as an organization, as we impact more people, it's not like it gets easier. No. The impact gets greater, so the work is harder because you're making a bigger difference. And so that will always happen. But I feel like the deeper we get into Breathe for Change, the more internally easeful it feels because it feels so aligned with the clarity that is our collective purpose together.
So inspiring. I love that. And I know, all the educators listening, right? They have their sense of purpose. But here we are in the summer. They kind of just finished like a marathon of purpose.
Yes.
Right, we want to rejuvenate purpose. So let's go into that a little more, right? We talked about this sort of paradox, the fact that there's so much purpose in education, but also so much burnout, right? So how can we disentangle that a little bit? What is it that we can offer before we close today that will really help educators right now in this chance where we kind of have the only time of year where we get to rejuvenate a bit, but we want it to rejuvenate our sense of purpose, not escape from purpose, because that's something I find. Like for me, sometimes after a really hard, long day of work,
like, get me out of here.
I want to just go watch a show on Netflix and sort of numb out. And
Great.
It's a coping strategy, right? And it's fine sometimes, but it doesn't actually give me more energy for the next day. It just kind of gets me through the day. And this is our chance to get more energy for the next school year, right now, today, this week, this month. And so, talk a little bit about strategies or guidance that you might have for educators listening who really care about their purpose and want to take advantage of this time to both fill up their cup and rejuvenate from a personal standpoint, but also connect even more deeply to that sense of purpose through the lens of universal intelligence.
I love it. So I would say it's twofold. The first step is filling your cup back up. You can't connect to your purpose if your cup is empty. So if you're not already feeling refreshed, rejuvenated, take deep breaths every day, go out into nature, go have coffee with a friend, go to a social event or a concert if that's what gives you energy. Do the things that are going to give you energy and vitality. That's really somatic intelligence. How can you access your vitality, your aliveness? And that might mean literally sleeping in till noon every day. Great, if that's what you need to do. And it's going to look different based on how you're feeling. Are you feeling stressed and anxious and overwhelmed? Then you might need to do some more grounding practices, which we teach tons of in our programs. If you're feeling like isolated and alone, then connect socially with people. If you're feeling you're already like joyful, you want to build on that, go dancing, like play, have fun, laugh. Do what you need to do to fill that cup up a little bit. And then from that place of at least partially your cup is full, and I know you have a million other demands over summer, so we're not saying that there's nothing to do here. But I think there might be a little bit more spaciousness outside of the day-to-day that is during the school year. And from there, I would argue one of the most meaningful purpose practices that I've ever done in my whole life, Breathe for Change wouldn't exist without it, is creating your life's mission statement. And I was in a leadership training program in 2014. In fact, I was just on the Leaders podcast last week about this. And we went through a whole process of coming up with our mission statement. This is not a long AI essay. This is not a long paragraph. This is my mission is, and maybe 4, 5, 6 words max. Like honing in, getting the clarity of what are you here for? It might be my mission is to love deeply. My mission is to foster human connection. My mission is to love and support children. Like, what's your mission? And mine that came out of 2014, which when I think about it, it brings tears to my eyes because that's the year before I created Breathe for Change. That's when I was following all those teachers who were stressed and overwhelmed in my dissertation, and that inspired me to do something about it. my mission that came out of that process was my mission is to transform lives through humanizing education. I'm like, what are we doing? We're doing human intelligence. What are we doing? Transforming educators and students' lives and the world. And that's because I got that clarity on what's my mission in life.
Love that. So filling up our cups, receiving, I'm going to go back to that from the beginning for everyone listening, receiving all the things you mentioned, going to a concert, walking in nature, sleeping, resting. These are all ways that we receive. When we're asleep, our bodies are receiving and taking care of themselves. And when we go to a concert, that's one way that people connect with something bigger than themselves. Same with nature. So do something in which you can receive. I really encourage that for you too.
Yeah, I know. And I'm always saying give to yourself. Receive, receive, receive. Michael's words in my mind. Receive, receive.
I love the give to
it's
yourself
so good.
too.
No, but you're right.
But it's this universal intelligence layer is all about
receive.
receiving from something that's bigger than us. Because that is a way, then when we give, we're not just, I want to share about this. This is something that I've thought about really deeply because I'm a giver and I've found that I now have way more capacity to give than I used to. And the number one thing that changed was that I used to think I was just pouring from my own cup. And then I had to fill up my own cup and pour from that cup like a little cup. So I only have so much water to give. And what I aspire to is certainly not perfect, but in the universal intelligence layer, what I try to do is I try to pour from the universe's cup. I try to let all that amazing energy and water that lives in this universe pour through me. And when I can do that, I find that my energy is almost limitless. There's so much more because I don't feel like I'm emptying out my own finite amount of water or to give. I feel like I'm actually opening up to allow something that is bigger than me to give. And I think that's, again, a lofty goal, but one of those things that those moments and those times of life when we can connect to that, that's when we can do something way beyond what, our small self could do. That's when we can do something that actually brings us into awe at who we are. Whether it's something one-on-one, like changing one individual student's life through some deep act of kindness, or whether it's some bigger service of some mission in the world, it's when we can come from that place of being connected to something bigger than us, and we have access to something so much bigger than our own ego's capacity, is when we can truly change the world. And so I really invite that to be part of what all the educators listening do this summer, is tap into that. Find that connection so that when the school year starts, you're not just pouring out of your own cup, you're pouring out of this universe's cup.
Oh, so beautiful. Oh, my goodness. And so we'll leave you with that, right? The invitation for all of you this summer as you transition into the school year is to move through those 5 competencies of universal intelligence. Take on the practices that we offered you, starting with wonder, really looking up, noticing the signs, observing curiously what's here for me to receive. Are you proud, Michael?
Yes, I am.
And then trusting, right? If there's something you're holding on to from the previous year or even before that, can you connect the dots to make meaning of that experience so that ultimately you can rest in trusting the process, trusting life, moving forward from a place of surrender and I trust you world to hold me. And then it's this process of integration. How can you, hold on to what you care about, your values, what matters, and act in alignment with what life is asking of you and listening to what life is asking of you because there's something there that is deeply wise. And then from there, how can you not be grateful, right? Like seeing the beauty, the awe, the wonder, and just, wow, the inspiration and all that surrounds us. That's gratitude. And in doing each of those practices, living out those competencies, embodying those competencies, as we would say in our master's program, that's where you access your purpose. And that's where you can come up with your mission statement. And so try on that mission statement thing. And you're going to have at least 256 drafts, right? I didn't get it the first time. It took me, weeks to play with and finesse the words. But see if there's something that just gets channeled through you. And who knows, it could guide your whole life. So thank you so much for being here with us today. We are so grateful that you're living your purpose and that you've chosen this path and that you're doing this hard work. And we hope that through this experience, you now have some tools from Breathe for Change that you can integrate into your life and teaching. So enjoy the rest of your summer and see you soon.